It's a simple question. Do you want Giannis? 713-780-ESPN, HR&P listener line, 713-780-3776. Blankers, do you want Giannis?
Yes. Yes, and yes. How about that? In all capital letters, yes. Obviously, price always matters. And the price of doing business, I'm also curious, if you do want Giannis, what are you willing to give up? Because the Ringer today proposed a trade.
That's Bill Simmons?
Yes. And he normally is a Rockets hater.
Yeah, he is.
And he's not a big Jalen fan anyway.
No,
but he proposed because, as you mentioned, the Bucks lost last night. A lot of people already clamoring, was this Giannis's last game in a Bucks uniform? Will they either be forced to trade him because he demands a trade, or will they look to trade him, which I don't think they would do. But if he does ask for a trade, the Ringer proposed the Rockets giving up Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, the Rockets' first-round picks in 25 and 27. I wasn't sure that they had one in 25. That was their own.
I think that I'll look it up.
Okay. So, essentially, it would be the Rockets' first-round picks in 25, 27, one of the Suns' 3 first-round picks that the Rockets control, and Alpy and Jalen. Would you do that?
Yeah, the Rockets, their first is going to Brooklyn. You're right.
Okay. So, somewhere along the way,
throw in another first.
Yeah, it would just be 3 firsts somewhere between the Suns' picks and your picks.
You're doing that?
Jalen, Alpy. Abso-freaking-lutely I'm doing that.
I'm not doing it.
Why?
I don't love what my starting 5 looks like.
I still have a men. So I have a men and Giannis.
I don't think that a men and Giannis are going to be this great offense if they're on the floor at the same time. You already, I think a men's Giannis light. Like, he's nowhere near Giannis yet, but I think he's Giannis light. Could you imagine Giannis and a men both on the floor at the same time and what that looks like for spacing? I think that's.
Well, I think they're definitely going to play more up tempo than they play now.
But it's hard to do that in the playoffs.
I think the bigger thing to me was I'm a little concerned about shooting. But here's the other thing, Jeremy. Roll with me a little bit on this, because now you make this initial move, right? And so after you make this initial move, now you still have Fred, and whether you decide that you're going to pick up the option and use the contract as a trade.
I imagine if you trade for Giannis, you're picking him up.
If you pick him up, but then you can also move him, you can use $40-some million in a trade to get Giannis a running mate that's better than Fred.
Yeah, but you don't have the surplus of talent to make that trade, though. You can't just say, okay, Fred VanVleet's making 45, best point guard in the NBA is making 45.
No, I'm not saying that. Right. No, I'm saying, and obviously, but you still would have first-round picks that could be in the mix. You still have guys on your roster from Cam and Reed and Tari and guys like that you could consider one of those players. Look, what if it was Kevin Durant? And what if we know that the price would be significantly lower and Phoenix is trying to move on from him? And what if it was either the remaining 2 picks of Phoenix's and one player, or some way to do that, and all of a sudden you had Kevin Durant, Giannis, and then you still have guys on your roster that thought, I think that's a competitive team. But at least you've got go-to guys. And I don't think as good in stretches as Alpy has been, and the fact that he made All-Star team is great, but I think Alpy is who he is. And I think that I don't know how much higher his ceiling is. Jalen, I'm done with, as I told you. And if that's all it costs me with some picks in to get a guy that gave you 30, 20, and I don't even know if he had 10 assists last night, but it was close.
Yeah, he lost.
But 30, 20, he didn't have a whole lot of help, and especially start with Gary Trent Jr. at the end. But you go 30, 20, and whatever in a playoff game, that's a real man's man on a basketball team that can do whatever the hell he wants, and that's a guy you can build around.
Build around with a lot of your young pieces gone and draft picks gone. Now, I agree with you that you're going to have players that want to play with them and all of that, and you have financial flexibility with some big contracts. While you do trade a lot of your assets in this trade, you still have some left.
You still have Jabari.
If you get Giannis and Durant, that's absurd.
You still have Jabari. Before you make anything to happen to try and get Durant, you would still have Jabari, Dylan, Tari, Cam, Reed.
So what's your starting 5 if you do this? So let's say that they just bring back VanVleet and you can't figure out another trade. So VanVleet's your point guard. Your 2 is Cam or Reed.
Could it be? I was going to say Fred. You're starting Fred at the 1.
Yeah, let's just say let's just look at the 1 trade, because I think it's hard to do the 9 degrees and all these other trades on top of it, which are possible. Like if you get Giannis and Durant, okay, sign me up, which I do think is feasible. A long shot, yes. 1% chance, probably yes. But would it be the craziest thing that ever happened? No, it's the NBA. But if we just made this one trade, you're looking at Fred VanVleet as your point guard. I really don't like Reed at the 2. I think it'd have to be Cam. I think
it's Cam as well. As you proposed that was the best option for me. Of course, there'd be a lot of hard conversations about what he can and can't do and how he's got to fit into this lineup. And he certainly can't be first option offensively or shoot first with those guys in the lineup, but he could be a huge part of the lineup. I would start with Cam.
I mean, Giannis can play every position, so where would he play?
I'm going to start Jabari. I'm going to start Jabari at the 5, Giannis at the 4,
and then
Amen or Dylan at the 3.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
Damn good.
My fear with that lineup, though, is that it's going to have trouble scoring consistently. The spacing's going to be bad.
Shooting is what scares me.
Yeah, for sure. That's what scares me, too. Shooting
scares me, but then you just have to start you have to, whether it's, low-level free agents just on veteran minimums and things like that, because like you said,
that's a good team.
There's going to be guys that are coming in that want to play on that team that can shoot and shoot only, and that's all you need. Because your questions on spacing, defensively, they are a nightmare.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and so when you have to double and you have to collapse, now you just need spot-up shooters. And that team is significantly better than they are this year, and that team has a chance to be really good, significantly, dare I say, close to contender over the next couple of years.
It's a pretty dang good team.
It really is.
It's a pretty dang good team. I'm still concerned about Giannis and Amin on the floor at the same time. Like that to me is going to hurt you so bad. Like Amin has been, with the exception of Game 4. Like I thought Amin did some good things in the second half. In fact, I thought that they went away from him whenever he was getting to the basket and finishing at the rim. But if I'm looking at this and how I would defend the Rockets, that 5 that we just put together, like I'm not defending the perimeter. Like I'm putting all of my bodies in the lane, all of them in the lane.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things I worried. But okay, with that starting lineup alone, you do have fully capable 3-point shooters in VanVleet and in Dylan Brooks.
You need Reed Sheppard to develop.
Yeah, and obviously that he's a key, right? And reading some of the interviews that came out today and
Tim
McMahon's column, they fully believe Reed. They believe in his talent. They believe in his future. Sorry, Israel, and they believe that he's going to develop into being a big part of what this team has got going on. I do think you can get guys that are out there that you can get for fairly cheap that can just shoot too. But I just think that if you give Dylan Brooks, as you've mentioned, had a career year from 3, and if you give him like shoot around threes because they're not contested because they're all worried about closing in the lane, and even Fred, instead of shooting 40-footers, if you get him toenails right up to the line, no one within 10 feet of him threes, I believe they're going to knock those down. And you come off the bench with Tari, and you come off the bench with
Reed,
and you
still have you have Phoenix's first. If you're
you
not
Big
trading
Steve,
that one, he says one of Phoenix's first. You have several, right. So it doesn't have to be this year's.
I'd keep this year's.
I mean, the lottery depends. Like, I mean, if it ends up number 12, I'm not heartbroken if you trade it.
But you know that it's going to be a pretty good pick this year.
If it's projected to be
Phoenix
9.
trying to reload.
No. I'm talking about this current one.
I know. I'm saying
it's 9th.
I would say that the chances of that being the highest pick you could possibly get from Phoenix,
I have no problem trading this one if it's 9th.
But do you think it'll be higher next year?
Yeah.
You think Phoenix will be worse?
I think it's possible.
It is possible, right? Because we still have Booker.
My point wasn't so much about Phoenix. My point was more I don't need the draft pick this year. I rather have it next year. So I mean, I'm not really looking at where Phoenix is going to be. Now, if you win the lottery, I mean, just take Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The one name that obviously as a long shot flashed into my head was if you got a shot at Cooper Flagg, then I'd hang on to this year's pick because you have some ping pong balls that could be.
Now Milwaukee's saying that you have to include it or we're not making a trade with you. That point.
Well, and then you have to hope that Phoenix, because they're probably going to try and do everything in their power to move Beal. Booker's going to be the only guy left. It is conceivable that they're worse next year. So you still would have a good pick.
My concern with Giannis and Amin and all of that is the spacing and the shooting. I'm not sure that you're good enough offensively, but I'm not heartbroken losing Jalen or Alpi.
No, me neither.
I like both of their games. Jalen's playoffs has been very disappointing. I do question the consistency long term. I do question if he could ever develop being a dog because I think he's soft. And I like Alpi's game, but defensively, you try to hide him a lot. And I think a little bit of times, too. Like, he misses a lot of easy shots that frustrates the heck out of me. Yes, you can go to him. Yes, he can score. But he frustrates me a lot of times, too.
I think, with both of them, I have a concern about LNS. I have major concerns about when the pressure's on the line and the biggest shots need to be made, that those guys get a little tight.